it's a court that touches people on a very direct level. This is the people's court. It's not criminal court. It's not family court where folks are getting divorced. It's not, personal injury. This is where most people come, either to get a marriage license or to probate a loved one's estate. So you want to make sure this is the court that helps the people as best as it can. And I'd like to be able to help make that an even better court system. As I see it, the judge has, two primary functions. And one's administrative, making sure that the administration of probate estates is done well and done properly and done quickly and efficiently. So you're managing people, and there's always that element to the judgeship, is managing people and making sure the systems in place work like they're supposed to. And then there's the judicial role. You're hearing controversies and you're hearing contentious cases. So you have to have your judge hat on because the elected probate judge is the head judge of that court. Now, there are other judges that serve under that judge, but the buck stops with the one that's elected.
Welcome to Studio B. We're here with Chad Groover. He is a candidate for the probate judge for Greenville County. Chad, can you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background?
Sure. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me. I'm a native South Carolinian. I'm from Florence County, is where I was born. When I was a child, my father went in the Air Force and we traveled the world. And then when it came time to go to college, I came back to South Carolina and went to Bob Jones University here in Greenville, South Carolina. After studying biology there and getting a degree, I went off to law school at Mercer down in Macon, Georgia, and did my time there, got the degree, and then went up to DC where I worked for the next 8 years. I was spending most of that time working for Senator Chuck Grassley. I was his crime counsel on the Senate Judiciary Committee. So did a lot of oversight of DOJ and FBI and Department of Homeland Security and that post 9/11 world. I was with Mr. Grassley from 01 to 06. Then, fearing that I would be stuck on Capitol Hill for the rest of my life, I decided, let's go do something decent, and went off to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I was a organized crime prosecutor for 2 years. I was a special assistant U.S. attorney. That was a phenomenal job. We really did a lot to put drug trafficking and drug crime in check while I was there. And then I met my wife, who lived here in Greenville, and I got married and moved back home. And I've now been here 14 years. We set down roots, raised a family, got 2 lovely kids, 8 and 11, Ava and Wills, and they're just wonderful kids. And we've built a strong, vibrant law practice, and I've done a great deal of probate work over that time. In fact, I exclusively do litigation in probate court here and throughout the rest of the upstate. So we've been able to build something here in the Greenville community and want to just continue to contribute to this community.
What things in your background can you apply to the probate judge position that might set you apart from other people?
So things that can be added would be, as Senator Grassley's crime counsel, my job was to make sure that the federal government in the areas that I was responsible for were doing their job appropriately. So oversight's important. So making sure that the functions of government are going like they should, efficient, transparent, making sure that the functionality of government benefits the people who the government's supposed to serve. So in the role of a probate judge, it's partially administrative. You've got a court that you're responsible for and 34 employees who have to manage estates. And so you want to make sure that's a well-run system. And Greenville has a great reputation. For many years, it's had a great reputation. And I'd like to contribute to keeping that and improving it.
And what are some of the things you'd like to change if you were elected the probate judge?
Well, there's always room for improvement. And I think one area is customer service, making sure that we're focused on the needs of the customer. Because remember, this is a court that serves people, and not just litigants, not just adversarial, it serves people. So we want to make sure that the very best in customer service is available for Greenvillians that come before the court seeking to administer their estates. We want to improve the way we connect with the public. So making sure that the public understands what the probate court does. It is shocking to me how many people have no idea what the probate court does. We want to make sure that the court is open and obvious to everyone and they have a better idea how it functions and what it does. There's room for improvement in technology. Electronic case filing is something that other courts have that I think is a very good and positive benefit. And I think the probate court here should have it. I understand there are issues that are impediments to getting that, but I think we can overcome those and bring electronic case filing to Greenville.
What drew you to estate law? How did you end up making this career?
I ask myself that question sometimes because I've done a lot of things. I was a federal prosecutor. I was a Hill staffer and fairly senior attorney on the Judiciary Committee. And in private practice, I've done a little bit of everything. So when I moved back to Greenville in 2008, I opened up my doors, hung the shingle, and said, you know what, I'm going to see what practicing law is like. I've been in the bubble of DC. I've been a federal prosecutor. Let's see what real world practicing law looks like. And I started taking anything that walked in the door. And within a few years, it was fairly clear I didn't like family court. I didn't like criminal defense. I didn't like personal injury. I really didn't like business, but I loved probate. Associate Judge Ted Savain, who worked for Judge Faulkner for many years, when I first moved back to town, pulled me aside and said, Chad, you really should consider coming in and handling appointed cases in probate court. You have court experience, lots of it, and really we could benefit. The court system could benefit if you handled some of these cases. So he put me on a court appointment list, and I started doing guardian and conservatorship actions. And then I started taking those cases privately. And then I started doing estate planning and estate administration cases. And before I knew it, I inched my way into being a full-fledged estate planning and probate lawyer. And then a lawyer named Frank Dana that many people in Greenville know and loved, who's kind of the father of elder law in our county and in most of the upstate. He pulled me aside and said, why don't you come in with me? I'd love to have you as a partner and let's do elder law together. And so I learned how to be an elder law attorney, understanding how you represent seniors and how you represent them with an eye towards their long-term care needs. And so I became an elder law attorney. And all of the probate work and estate planning work is a subset of that elder law function that I have. And, we've done a lot of good for thousands of clients and tried to do what we can for the Greenville community.
How is this your passion? Is it just something inside that's hard to define?
It's kind of funny because when I worked for Senator Grassley on Capitol Hill, I worked on what's called the Elder Justice Act. It was a bill that had been sponsored by Senator John Breaux, a Democrat from Louisiana. And Senator Grassley was one of the co-sponsors of it, and we worked really hard on it, even testified in Congress over it. So I got my first taste while I was still in DC. But when I came back to Greenville and started doing private practice, the more clients that I started to meet, the more I saw the needs. And I had two great aunts who didn't have family that could take care of them. And my grandmother down in Florence, when she was still living, called me and said, Chad, your Aunt Myrtle needs help. Can you come alongside her? Or Chad, your Aunt Pauline up in Virginia needs help. Can you come help? And as the only attorney in the family, you get those calls. And I was able to come alongside both of those dear, lovely aunts and help them through their last days of, taking care of themselves, ordering groceries for them, not really as a personal caregiver, but as a distant caregiver, making sure that they were okay. Making sure they were legally protected, making sure they had Medicaid to cover care for themselves. And in that personal experience, I developed a love for seniors and a love for making sure they're protected. I mean, this is that greatest generation that we talk about that fought World War II, that led up to the Korean War. It's just that generation. They deserve so much of our gratitude. And as a lawyer, I had the ability to come alongside them and help. And I think we've done a pretty good job of it. And I'd like to just extend that now as the probate judge.
Do you have a platform, or is that different from like a typical political candidate?
It is different. I'm glad you asked that question because it's something people don't think about. Politicians that run in legislative races or to be the president or the governor or an executive function like those. They have a platform. These are the things that we believe, we adhere to, we stick to, and this is what governs how we do the job of being a legislator or being an executive. This role is judicial. There's not a platform. This is it's sort of like what Chief Justice John Roberts said years ago at his confirmation hearings, which I was present for because I worked on them as a staff member on the Judiciary Committee. I can remember looking across the room and hearing him say those words that everyone knows. Judges call balls and strikes. They don't enact anything. They're not there to create law. They're not there to enforce a platform. They're there to call balls and strikes. This is what the law says. Here's what the set of facts are. How do the facts and the law relate to each other? And then how do we get a ruling out of that application of the law to the facts? That's what a judge is supposed to do. And that's what I would do as a judge.
Well, thanks, Chad. I really appreciate you coming to Studio B and speaking with me. Would you like to address the audience?
Yes, thanks, Scott. Thank you very much for your time and for listening. I ask that you vote on November the 8th. If you don't vote before that, I'm running for the Greenville County Probate Court, and my name's Chad Groover, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you, Scott.